Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Elsie Mardatilah. I'm from Group 4. I want to tell you about 2 points from pre-listening skills and activities. The first point is about listening in the lessons, the sequence. In this point, we have 3 stages for listening. The first stage is pre-listening. In this pre-listening, described below, help our students to prepare for what they are going to hear. Maksudnya, di sini akan dapat membantu siswa kita untuk mempersiapkan apa yang akan mereka dengar dan memberi mereka kesempatan lebih besar untuk sukses dalam mengerjakan tugas yang kita berikan. In the second stage is while listening. In this stage, they need to listen for specific information or listen in detail. Maksudnya yaitu mereka akan kita pasangkan atau kita bentuk kelompok untuk memeriksa jawaban yang sudah mereka buat. Ini bertujuan untuk memberi mereka kepercayaan diri dan mau mengatasi keraguan mereka. Kemudian mereka akan mendengarkan untuk kedua kalinya, baik untuk memeriksa atau menjawab pertanyaan yang lebih rinci. And the last stage is about post-listening. And post-listening might involve the meaning of the recording for useful language, a particular grammatical structure, vocabulary, or discourse markers. Maksudnya, untuk memeriksa jawaban, seluruh kelas akan membahas kesulitan seperti kosakata yang tidak diketahui dan menanggapi isi bacaan dari temannya. Itu biasanya secara lisan, tetapi kan terkadang juga secara tertulis. Ini dapat kita lakukan dalam berpasangan atau kelompok. Selanjutnya is about the role of the teacher. The role of the teacher in this chapter have 8 role. The first is a tailor. In this role, the listening text must fit the class. The second is a stand-up comedian. In this role, the teacher who can hold an audience have a valuable skill. The third is about a sleuth. Before class, the teachers need to be able to analyze the language in a recording. And next, an engineer. When using recordings, the teacher needs a working knowledge of the way in which the equipment works. The fourth is a spy. While the students are listening, the teacher should be watching their hands and face. And the sixth is a doctor. In this role, the teacher needs to be expert at diagnosis their students. And the seventh is a firefighter. The teachers need to get everyone out of trouble. And the last is about a tour guide. In this role, the teacher can point out what's interesting and ignore everything that is not. Nah, secara keseluruhan, peran yang dipilih oleh seorang guru itu tergantung pada banyak faktor, termasuk pada jenis kelas yang diajarnya dan apakah pelajaran tersebut berada pada tahap pre-listening, while listening, or post-listening stage. Tetapi kemungkinan besar pada satu tahap atau yang lainnya, guru akan menemukan diri mereka sendiri dalam sebagian besar atau semua peran yang sudah saya jelaskan dari 8 yang tadi. Sekian dari saya. And the next explanation from my partner.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Reni Yohelda. I'm from group 4. I wanna be explain about what a listener needs to know before listening and activating schema or predicting. My friends and teacher, what the type of contextual information do we need? The first is who is speaking and who is the listening, and the two is what is the relationship, and the last is where are they and what are they trying to active. If we think difference between a president speaking to his people, a mother phoning her son and children nothing in the flagrant, it becomes clear that the contextual aspect several factors such as vocabulary use, tone of voice, body language, and patterns of discourse. Students need to know before they listen. The first is the speaker's voice while talking. How to listen? The student use tone, and uh, and the third is lack of text. And the third is internet audience and audience's role. Four is relationship between listener and speakers. And five is function of the text. And the six is information about the topic. And the seven is specialist vocabulary. And the last is what they need to do. Activating schema or predicting, brainstorming, from one to many, and faster display, branch walking, branch writing, shout or describe. And the second is visual. Visual is pictures, guides having students ask with a visual situation and diagram. And the three is Relia. Relia using is photo, birds, map, and dance. The text on words, course, case, gap, fill, exercise, first, keyword, situation, function, mastery, headlines, prop, solving, and the last is opinion, idea, artworks, growth or question. Okay, that's all from me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I'm Sonia Indriani. I will explain about establishing reason for listening. Here we look at a few general principles. First, make the purpose realistic. The task must reflect the type of listening the text. Second, make the goal achievable. This is done so that student can pursue the target of the material. And last, get the student involved. Involve student in making question. 2 minutes is usually enough to generate a good number of questions, but not long enough to induce boredom. The following section discuss in more detail some of the techniques involved in question. And next, generating question. 1. Higher order question are more likely to generate deep talk because they are often open-ended and might have more than one answer. Second, low-level question. Ask students to provide very basic factual information and usually have only one correct answer.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is FAP Febriani. I will explain about pre-teaching vocabulary and things to avoid during pre-listening stage. Okay, the first one is pre-teaching vocabulary. If the teacher thinks that there are a number of vocabulary that will be unknown by the students, it is probably better to pre-teach them. And when making the decision about whether to pre-teach them an item of vocabulary or not, there are several factors to be considered. The one is the time it takes to teach the word. The second one is whether the word itself is worth the effort. Another consideration is the number of words to be pre-taught. A short answer is the fewer the better. Are there any limits or guidelines? It depends on many factors. And the research Chang and Reed in a study of 116 students in Taiwan conclude that pre-teaching vocabulary was considered the less effective of a number pre-listening technique. Next is things to avoid during pre-listening stage. The first one is don't let the pre-listening stage drag on. Make it short and fast-paced. The second one is don't give away too much information to the students. The third one is don't do a listening before the listening. The last one is don't just talk about the general topic. Okay, maybe that's all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ismiati. I want to explain about the conclusion from pre-listening skill and activities. In pre-listening skill and activities, there are some points. There is listening in the lesson, the sequence, the role of the teacher, what the listener need to know before listening, activating schema or predicting, establishing reasons for listening, generating questions, pre-listening vocabulary, things to avoid during the pre-listening stage. Okay, the first is listening in the lessons, the sequence. The listening sequence should usually be divided into three parts. There is pre-listening, while listening, and post-listening. The next is the role of the teacher. The role of the teacher choose to adopt depend of many factors, including what the type of the class is. It is whether the lessons is pre-listening, while listening, or post-listening stage, but it is likely that at one stage or another, teachers will find themselves in most of all these roles. Okay, the next is what a listener needs to know before listening. There are a number of other things it would be helpful to know before we start listening. Okay, the next is activating schema or predicting. In activating or schema or predicting, there are activity 6 practical ways to active schema and have students predict what they will hear. The first is brainstorming. The next is visual. The visual is have many advantage, direct and evocative, hence the axiom a picture with a word the thousand word. The next is realia. In realia, there have or using photos, guide maps or brochures, and next other object. The next point is text and word. In text and word, there have a core case, gap filling exercise, L1 first, and keyword. The next point is a situation. In situation, there have functions, mystery headlines, and problem solving. The last point is opinion, ideas, and fact. In this activity is a perfect for listening to pieces of actual topic. There have a key WL chart. Key is a column. Key is a no. W is a one. L is a learn. Then the first rating, group rating, and quiz quotations. Here are some activities that are use factual knowledge. There is backgrounding, quizzes, and the next is establishing reason for listening. Establishing occasion ahead of time is the most common way establishing reason for students to listen. The next is generating questions. There have a higher level questions tend to generate deep thought because they are often open-ended and may have more than one answer. The next is pre-teaching vocabulary. In pre-teaching vocabulary, if the teacher thinks there are no number of words the student will not know, and thus word important of the meaning of the passage of the completion of an assigned task, it be better to teach them first. The next is things to avoid during the pre-listening stage. In this point, there are things to avoid during the pre-listening stage. The first is don't let pre-listening stage on. Make it short and fast. Then don't give too much information for students. Then do not listening before you listens. The next, don't just talk about generating topics. Okay, that's all from me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.